that was the first time.
So it was interesting.
Those people, occasionally we would give incentive rides to airmen and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, they.
Back seat,
How many
didn't
y'all?
have two seats.
17.
They just have fours and that.
And y'all all on the same flight?
And
All seven,
The
same
ones
flight.
that get sick, it's primarily, it's just apprehension.
You just sitting there.
Have you worked with Jeff lately?
Yeah, it's nerves and
I've
butterflies.
been working 62.
He ain't got it. I don't think most of it's
I just wondered if you know, I noticed two boys with him beside, well, I knew one of them.
They try to give us
was
something to do.
Dakota, yeah, but I didn't know the other one. He's got, it looks like red hair, but it's curly out from under his cap.
Slowly, you can see the hair.
Yeah, he's tall.
You know,
So I was trying to,
He didn't say.
he did
onto the thing.
But by doing,
I
he
bet I
thought it
couldn't be the one that was there at
No, he had a
mine.
Mexican boy too.
he was,
Yeah.
I mean, they had that thing knocked out, so.
Brought him some.
at 6 o'clock.
It wasn't.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. It's the regular council meeting for July 5th. It's hard to believe it's July already, but here we are. So I'd like to ask Councilman Rustin to lead us in the invocation, please.
Sure. Let us pray. Dear God, thank you so much for the opportunity to join here, Lord, and thank you so much for July 4th yesterday, Lord, and what it means to our country and the ability to live in a country that's great as America. God, we thank you, Lord, for being able to allow us to do the things we enjoy and the freedoms that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis. Lord, we thank you for that. God, I ask you, Lord, just to watch over the meeting tonight. Let it be for the benefit of the city of all things discussed. Lord, we thank you for the people that to protect the city of Columbiana on a day-to-day basis, Lord, and the people that make it just be beautiful, and especially this time of year. God, I ask you, Lord, to be with me tonight, and thank you so much for allowing us to be here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you'll rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and I'd like to ask the assistant clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Lilly,
Here.
Mizell,
Here,
Rustin,
Here.
King,
here.
Phillips,
Here.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here. Okay, so let the record show that we have full attendance and we have a quorum. So I'll go ahead and put the agenda up here and let everybody take a look at it. This is almost this is basically the same agenda as we had for our last meeting, which we were unable to hold because we didn't have a quorum. Except we've added another section of minutes on there for us to approve. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So members of the council should have received a copy of the minutes of the regular council meeting for the 7th of June, and then the minutes of the meeting that did not occur on the 21st, just showing that we called roll and we didn't have a quorum. Are there any recommended changes, additions, deletions to the minutes? Okay, if not, let the record show that the minutes have been approved by unanimous consent, and we will go on to the agenda. Now, obviously, Mr. Nelson is not here. He has to be put on the agenda for our scheduled meeting for the 21st, and he wanted to have a discussion about cameras at the crosswalks. My assumption, this particular crosswalk that he was concerned about is one that people have complained about before, particularly the folks who, I think, live in some of the assisted living communities and stuff. It's the one across from Piggly Wiggly by the post office. And so I'm assuming his discussion was, could we get some cameras there so we could, I guess, catch people who either don't stop or are speeding or what have you. So I think that's something that we as council can talk about. We'd like to include you in that discussion, Jeff. I don't know if we'll talk about it here. But I should have seen these things. They're probably all over the place, but I just noticed it on a trip to Atlanta this weekend. Our son took us out to get some ice cream. And we walked across the street, and they had one of these little things. And you push the button at the crosswalk, and these it's solar powered, and these lights flash, and it catches the attention of the drivers, you know, because a lot of people are driving down the road, they may not notice the sign or what have you, but you can push that thing and the lights start flashing, and it gets people's attention, and you can watch and see if they slow down. So we do have a catalog that's got some of those things in it, so we can take a look at that. And this is a different version of a similar type thing where the flashing lights are around there. So I think we should potentially at one or two critical crosswalks in town maybe consider something like that. And one thing that I did notice, and I was going to talk to Al about that, is that the crosswalk there at the post office has a pedestrian sign when you are going, let me get my bearings right, when you're going west, but there is no sign if you're coming east.
Because somebody hit it.
Is that right?
Yes, we used to have 2 signs.
Well, I
'Cause
thought we
remember when they
did. So when did that happen? So I
It's
guess
been a
it's been
while.
removed, and so we need to get another one. We should have a sign for both directions. You go further down at the next crosswalk, and we have signs in both directions. But at that particular one, we only have signs in one direction. So Mr. Nelson's not here. Obviously, he talked about that, but I thought I'd throw that out. Any comments?
Haven't we had a caution light there before?
I don't know.
The
Have we?
signs, I thought the sign flashed.
Well, you could get one where
I
this
think
one
the
has.
sign did flash.
You
Yeah,
can get one
something
like
was going-
that has a flashing light and it pretty much flashes all the time, or you can get something like this gizmo where if there's
They may
somebody,
ignore that though. If it-
because it's there all the time,
If it
right?
flashes all the time, yeah.
And then this one is,
Notice it.
these are bright, what do you call them? Not neon lights, but
LEDs. or-
yeah, LEDs, and they're supposed to be able to see them. So the guy who wants to cross the street, they push the button, and plus it's solar powered, so you don't have to hook it up.
What's the speed limit there?
It's right there.
The
It's
button, yeah.
20. No, it's still 35 there. It's 35 there, and then you go right there at Walton Street, and yeah, so it changes to 25 right there around Michael's, but down there where that crosswalk is, it's 35. Any other comments about that? So again, I'm not sure if that's what he wanted to discuss, but I thought
And if we do get those, we need to have that button down low because some
Yes,
people
ma'am.
are in the wheelchair.
exactly. And, you know, typically that's where they're placed. You can see, you can't really tell how high that is, but, yeah, they need to be wheelchair accessible.
But it is bad there. I mean,
It is.
It is.
And so people, you know, get ready to pull out into the crosswalk, and then somebody doesn't stop, and you end up swerving. So there's a potential hazard there. Okay, fire department. There's nothing really changed in Johnny's status here, so he's not here, and it's pretty much same old, same old. Any questions or comments there? We've talked about it for the last couple of months. That same thing. And the library, Sheila.
Okay, everything's pretty much the same except the end of our summer reading is Friday, and we've had a good turnout so far. And Olivia Pickett has agreed to clean the building, and she's going to get her license on the 15th. And of course, she's worked for us before, and she's going to do another job application. And
So I was thinking about that. Is she going to be a library employee,
she's
or are you going to hire her as a contractor?
contract.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if she's going to be a library
Well,
employee,
it makes more doing it the other way,
well,
unless we want.
she makes more other than the fact that she knows that she has to pay tax, including the employer's share of Social Security tax and things of that nature. So,
I guess I need to discuss that.
and if she is a business and you hire her as a contract with a business, but if the library hires her as an individual contractor, then we would have to provide her a 1099 at the end of the year. So we just need to make sure that we do it the way you want to do it and what makes the most sense. So she could be a part-time employee, and we would withhold taxes from her pay. She could be an individual contractor that would require a 1099. She would have to pay all of the employer's portion of taxes, Social Security, Medicare, all that kind of stuff, as well as the employee's portion. Or if she sets up her own business and gets a business license, then again, she's responsible for all those things as well. So, but yeah, I'm all for it, and you guys have the authority to do that. Just think about which is the best way to do
Okay,
it. Okay. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
that's fine. That's all I had.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Do you want me to discuss Anna's thing now or about?
Yeah, you go ahead and discuss it all.
The library board meeting and
Mhm.
everything? Okay. On our library board meeting, which, you know, we decided to hire somebody for the cleaning, which I've already talked about. And also they approved Anna Taylor to move from a grade 1 step 4 to grade 2 step 2. And she's, you know, got a higher position now. She's going from this library aide to library assistant. And doing a lot more work. She's doing a lot of stuff out.
Did she used to work at the Pig?
Yeah.
I know, she's a good, smart girl.
She is. I mean, she's
Yes, she is.
taking on so much,
Yeah,
and, you know.
you got a good one
coming
there.
up with programs and stuff. are so good. And, they've called a special meeting for the 19th to update the director position requirements. So we're gonna get going on that. And, we still would like to have the fire department and the police department to come out and do some kind of home safety classes at the library.
Can you get with Chief Howard and maybe, do you want them at different times or together?
It doesn't matter.
Talk to the chief about that.
And it, you know, it's just in the evening sometimes. You know, I don't, they've requested it, the Hispanic community, but, you know, whether they show up. I mean, we'll advertise it.
Okay. Any questions? Michelle? Okay, thanks. So that's, we killed 2 birds with 1 stone on that one. Environmental services.
There hasn't been a whole lot of change, as far as the stoplight summary. On the issues and concerns, we came in one morning, we had a blower and a half, we got 3 blowers, so we had a blower and a half that went out, at the treatment plant that mixes the aeration basin, creates the oxygen before it goes out to the creek. So we ran 1 blower at full capacity and 1 blower at half capacity. Takes 2 to run the whole process. So our manufacturer in Birmingham, their lead time was May of 2023 before we could get one. That was how bad they was backlogged. So we started calling around to every supplier we knew, called Georgia, because the hotter it is outside, the more air it takes. So nobody had one. One guy said he had usually 3,000 on the shelf. He said he had 0. So we got a book we ordered from USA Blue Book. We get a lot of supplies. They got warehouses all over the United States. So we found one in Las Vegas. So we had that baby shipped to the plant, 3-day shipping. We did stay in compliance, no issues. So we got that installed. Early one morning, I let the guys come in early and do that. So we're back up with the blowers running at full capacity. We're going to take the one we took out of service and send it to Birmingham and have it rebuilt for a spare.
Did you have to roll the dice to get that one from Las Vegas?
So that morning we came in, we had like $14,000 worth of equipment. Blower was like $7,300. We had a refrigerated sampler. We have to set up a sample 3 times a week. It also went out. So that one's still on back order, but we have portable samplers. We put ice in, but that creates one of the guys rotating out on Sunday because the ice will be melted if we set it up on Friday before we take them off Monday. So we've been rotating, one of the guys comes in one Sunday and sets it up, so it's ready for Monday. But hopefully we'll get that sampler, in pretty soon. Over on the highlights and opportunities, contractors, they're coming along on the main line over there behind the Piggly Wiggly. They're getting ready to cross the branch and come up beside the pig towards the front of the bank, so that project's moving on pretty quick.
You remember when we had that last big rain and it flooded right there on the, that didn't have anything to do with where they were working, did it?
That was stormwater.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I noticed it was weird. It backed up behind Jack's and on that side of the pig instead of the other side.
And, you know, that's probably gonna come out when the stormwater study gets completed. Alan and the mayor's been heading that off. I don't wanna overstep my bounds, but, I mean, a lot of that's probably got to do with the creek that runs behind
Yes,
the treatment plant, with beaver dams and so on.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've tore out a lot of dams back there, but, I mean, a beaver dam's gonna create chaos.
I didn't even know they
So-
had those back there. I just knew that was
Everything gets
odd.
like one creek.
That was odd the way it flooded that day.
I mean, but it recedes very quickly.
Yeah, it did.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
I was just
yeah,
wondering.
they're still working on that. Other than that, all the numbers are coming back from the lab on our data, you know, excellent. So everything's going along good. The guys should be finishing up class, in about 2 more weeks, so we'll see how that goes.
So these blowers go out or whatever, or any other critical piece of equipment, and you cannot maintain the sewage treatment within whatever the criteria is to be in compliance. What happens?
So I would call the Alabama Rural Water Association and see if because they have a lot of portable stuff. So if they had a portable blower, we'd have tied that into our piping system and used it. Like our UV lights are another critical piece of equipment that disinfects and kills all the E. coli. So if it was to go out, then we'd install chlorine. That's the reason we keep chlorine on our permit. Even though we don't use chlorine, we can disinfect with the chlorine.
Do you have an inventory of critical parts and chemicals
Yes.
that you keep in the event that you have these failures to try to keep the thing?
Like, especially
In
on our UV
compliance.
lights, our UV is probably the most critical. So we've got inventory of spare bulbs, PLC boards, all the electrical components. We can basically rebuild a whole UV system with the parts we have if it was to go down.
And do you have chlorine?
Chlorine, the guy we get that from has a warehouse in Shelby, so he has that on hand.
Last summer, you hear about all these supply chain. The folks who service my pool couldn't get chlorine tablets, and so I was just curious.
Yeah,
But that doesn't seem to be a problem this year, but.
right. It's just a little more expensive this year.
Exactly.
A little more.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, my
lot.
price
I thought I was
went
gonna
up
be
quite a
sick.
bit. Okay. All right, any other questions for Dale? Okay, thank you, sir. Community Affairs, Senior Services.
All right, so we
It's all
have
good, it's all green.
I know, everything's green. We have more events coming up in July, Season Park, and then the farmer's market will go through the end of August. We have scheduled the community pep rally for Friday, August 12th. That's typically a Thursday night, but there was a conflict with the volleyball team, so they're gonna do that on a Friday night this year.
Same thing, Main Street thing?
Yeah, that's typically how they do it, it's on Main Street.
I like Friday night better.
Yeah, me too. So, the senior center, everything's going along well. We need some more volunteers, to deliver Meals on Wheels. Several of our volunteers are getting kinda older, and they, kinda need a break. So if you know anybody who would like to deliver meals, takes about 2 hours. We do it Monday through Friday. tell them to give me a call. And then we are working on some other big things. The Discover Shelby Fest, which is a wine festival. And then that will be a partnership between the city of Columbiana and the Shelby County Arts Council and Shelby County in October. So we are working to do that. That'll all be contained in Old Mill Square Park. And it'll feature all of the wineries in Shelby County.
That's great.
That's excellent.
That's a pretty cool thing. We have scheduled a jiu-jitsu tournament for the 18th and 19th in the Grand Hall. That's right after the completion of the World Games, and there'll be 8 different countries represented here in Columbiana. So that'll be pretty cool. You'll be able to go and watch. So it'll be neat. And then Liberty Day, I think it was a success. I always welcome feedback. So we have a meeting scheduled on Tuesday. But I like to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. So, have comments, let me know.
My family had no problems at all. They loved it.
I always like to hear.
Yeah, they loved it.
I thrive on criticism.
I'll wait till announcements to give you mine.
Oh, okay.
No,
Wait for-
no
for
matter
meeting.
what, it is the best holiday of the year, period. Always.
What time is your, meeting on that Tuesday?
10 o'clock
The day?
on next Tuesday.
Okay.
As well. So, and then in August, I would like to sit down and do a calendar for the entire year for events so that we can plan a little bit better. So we have not scheduled a date for that, but I would like for everybody to be involved.
Okay, good.
So.
Any questions or comments for Ally?
Okay. Board reports.
You guys meet?
We'll meet next Monday, but I do have a couple things. You've probably seen it, Bolton and Lewis Fields, they have cut the poles off, at Bolton. So those are laying on the ground, and they've taken the light fixtures off at Lewis. So that lighting project is underway. I talked to Trey Gant the other day, and he said that they'll be back with some supplies pretty soon, and that project should be going pretty quickly. I got an email today from my friend Stacy, who is doing the build of the playground equipment, and that's going to be installed late August. Al and his crew's got to do a pad there for that stuff to sit on. So look for that to be going in late August. And then the other thing we had talked about doing some dugouts at the girls softball fields. Seems like we're going to start at Bolton. And we're probably this is going to be an agenda item that we can talk about in the meeting on Monday. So we've got to bid that project out. We've got to get some specs on what those dugouts will look like, but also too, it's going to involve a demolition of tearing down those existing dugouts, and I think it's going to involve some concrete work and for some drainage there too. So that project's going to be a little bit more in depth than initially thought, just simply because of the drainage, because we're building them to not flood again. So that's going to be something we can talk about next meeting, which is Monday at 6 o'clock. So
Okay.
that's it.
This slide, I think, is a carryover from our last meeting. So when was the last beautification board?
And we meet next Monday.
Okay.
As
Yeah,
well.
Any updates until then?
Nothing other than I'm very proud of what all they've done, including Main Street, how beautiful the flowers are on Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street looks
Columbiana
very
has
nice.
never looked this pretty.
Good.
They're pretty.
What time are y'all meeting, Kim?
6.
Is it here?
It's downstairs. We have it in the police department.
Okay.
Also, Alan, where's that, the meeting is gonna take place at? Next Tuesday?
Oh, next Tuesday in the PD conference room.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Sheila's already given the report for the library board. Again, I think this is an old slide, Vicki, but have you guys met since the last time? Okay.
Y'all did?
Yeah. Remember when the High Point came? It was discussing all that out on Georgetown.
Oh, yes, I am so sorry. Well, look, I've been at the funeral home for 2 weeks, so I don't know what's going on.
I mean, you can talk about it.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Anyway,
I thought that was
High
last
Point
meeting.
Properties, we we had a meeting, second Thursday of last month. So they were looking at doing 8 more lots on the other side of, Clearview Estates. So basically, the planning commission didn't have an issue with it, it's more on the water side now, so I don't know what the communication between the water department and High Point was, but the planning and zoning commission, I think they was all on board with
Yeah.
those 8. Then he was supposed to bring, I think, like a different set of plans for the property
That's right.
down around Rocky Ridge Road, so we could look at that again. But I think, I really don't think water would be an issue there. I think they said there was fire hydrants already there.
That's what he said.
So, that's what that meeting was about. And I know in the past we've discussed, and this will be something for you guys to put some input on. We're getting a lot of building that's right on the boundaries of the city limits, so a lot of that property is not zoned. So you can put, you can have $1 million house here and a double wide here. So we need to look at zoning these properties. The city shouldn't have any property that has no zoning. It's not fair to the neighboring homeowners. So, if that's something you want the planning commission to pursue, that's probably a burden and expense we'll have to bear if we go rezoning these properties.
In what capacity? What's the expense?
We will be paying for the certified letters to all adjoining property owners and, the ads in the paper, that'll be about it.
Okay,
It needs
just
to
the
be done.
administrative cost.
Yeah.
And then, did y'all have the annexation on the last one, Charlie?
Yeah, we've got it coming up, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other board meetings that we missed? Okay, so on the agenda now is an ordinance to annex property at 130 Fulton Road. That is this little spot right here that I've got circled. You can see it's surrounded by the city limits, and the property owner has requested to be annexed into the city. So in order for us to consider this ordinance and adopt it at its first reading, it will require a motion to suspend the rules. But before we do that, are there any questions or comments that we need to go through about annexing that little piece of property? When you get right down to it, it's in the police jurisdiction because of our mutual aid agreements with the fire department. The only thing is and there's only one house, I think, on that property, if I'm not mistaken. The only thing is that we would have to provide garbage service there, but there's a fee for that service, so I can't see any downsides as far as the city's concerned.
Seems like they pass it going to another house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
is there a motion to suspend the rules?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
Second.
Okay, and I think we have to have unanimous consent to suspend the rules, so if you'll do a roll call.
Councilwoman Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, so that is the ordinance to annex the property. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 06-2203?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion. We adopt ordinance 06-2203. It's annexation of, what's the address?
130 Fulton Road.
130 Fulton Road.
I'll second.
Okay, and since we suspended the rules to do this, I'm not sure if it requires a roll call, but let's go ahead and call the roll.
Councilwoman Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, so ordinance 06-2203 has been adopted. Is there any other business anybody would like to bring up?
I just received the subdivide on the properties in my mailbox, so that'll be on next week's planning and zoning.
So now he's gonna subdivide, huh? No. Okay, anything else?
No, I do have a question. For the High Point properties right there on Highway 70, have they given you any indication they're gonna slow down?
You mean Saddlewood?
Saddlewood.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, actually, they put the sewer and the manholes in now,
Okay,
so they actually started, doing infrastructure.
okay.
Yeah, so they were, a
I
little-
mean, you'll have to drive out there
Yeah,
to see.
right.
but, yeah.
yeah, they were a little bit behind, but I don't know if it was, again, a labor issue or a supply issue with pipe or whatever, but all of a sudden, they're going gangbusters on getting that sewer and water stuff in. Anything else? Okay, mayor's report. So interesting, we have a new business coming to Columbiana. It's a crypto mining business for cryptocurrency. And this is the press release that the company is DigiHost Technology. It's interesting, they must have a headquarters or something that's released in Toronto, but the headquarters for these guys is up in the Buffalo, New York area. But they purchased the old Greedy property, and I know some of you know that I teach a class at Montevallo in international management. We talked a little bit about cryptocurrency, which I know absolutely nothing about, and so one of the things we talked about is blockchain technology, and I had to get smart and basically had to ask the students to help me out and understand what blockchain technology is. But here's the thing, blockchain technology obviously is a digital technology, and everybody associates it with digital currency like Bitcoin, but it was not developed solely for that purpose, but that's the industry, I guess, that most widely uses it. But it's these massive databases, if you will, of information that's constantly being fed real time, and basically anybody can input. Not anybody can manipulate it, but anybody can input it. So it's always, the data is always the most current, if you will. And so that's the block. And the chain is they then query multiple sets of databases to get all the latest information on, how these coins are trading and what their value is. And so it apparently requires a massive amount of electrical power to do this mining. And they had some issues in New York because of environmental regulations, and they didn't have enough sustainable energy to be able to support them. So one of the things that they spent some time with Alabama Power, spent some time talking to me, and wanted to know if Alabama Power could provide them the power needs that they had, and wanted to understand, what sort of environmental concerns that the community and the residents might have with them bringing that kind of business here. I basically told them we welcomed any kind of business, and had some knowledge that the power plant in Wilsonville has partially converted to natural gas, and then the rest of it is majority of it is energy is produced by coal. But they're going to start out by, Alabama Power is going to provide them 28 megawatts of power. Now, to give you an example, I did some research on how much is 28 megawatts. That's enough to supply 30,000 homes with electrical power. And then they're eventually going to expand to 55 megawatts, which is enough to supply 55,000 homes with power. And there's a substation nearby, and Alabama Power and the company are working together to expand that to take it up to 55. But this processing this data, they call it hashing, and they have this hash rate, and it's just a complex mathematical computations, and they measure it in petahashes, and they do 600, or they plan to get up to 650 petahashes per second. A petahash is 1 quadrillion hashes, and each hash is supposedly just a massive amount of mathematical calculation. So the data consumption is huge. And so they're going to have multiple servers housed out there, and the cooling is probably the real source of the power that's derived from that. But Anyway, so Columbiana is moving into the digital world with hosting Bitcoin, or what do we call it? Whoops, went the wrong way.
That's interesting. Do they say how many employees they'll have?
Well, it's actually pretty small. They expect to expand, but they do expect to initially start with hiring 30 employees. And essentially, they're the people that maintain the equipment in the facility, because the data, a lot of the input and the people who are involved in the processing, they can do that remotely.
Are they going to gut that whole building and clean it up?
Well, so
That's a different type of
they
environment.
envision. So I asked him, I said, have you actually seen the place? The guy said, yes. And he says, the guy who, from New York, who had come down here and looked at it, apparently has seen some pretty nasty looking factories. And he said, it doesn't scare me at all.
Huh.
But they're going to start by putting their servers in connexes, transportation containers. And it will take them some time to refurb that facility. And they're not quite sure if they refurb it as to whether or not they will use it themselves or they'll actually lease it. And so they're going to build some infrastructure, refurb some existing infrastructure, and they're going to start out with temporary infrastructure. So it's, you're right, it's pretty interesting. Crypto mining. So we are in the process now of finalizing the 2021 city financial audit. I had gotten the preliminary financial statements, net position, statement of activities, and some of the other stuff. And then right before the 4th of July break, I got the draft report, if you will, in full. So I had been working with the auditors on the management discussion and analysis. And the Government Accounting Standards Board has some pretty strict rules about what you can say and what you can't say in that management discussion and analysis. But they tell you that you can, add a little bit more information, but you just have to put it in place. And so I will provide the council a letter of transmittal of the audit, and so some additional information that outside of what goes into the management discussion and analysis will be in that letter of transmittal. The everything's good. Liquidity is good. Our statement of net position continued to increase, but not as much as it has been in recent years. And as I dig through this thing and begin to understand it a little bit better and compare it to prior years and have discussions with the auditors, for the last couple of years, we've had significant increases in net position because it's a function of your city's asset base. And as we had the Old Mill Square project coming along each year, based on completion, we were getting a bump, if you will, in the city's asset base. And we, of course, had financed that with bonds in 2018, which we refunded in 2021. So the asset bump offset the debt in previous years. And then in 2021, we didn't get hardly any asset bump, if you will, because the Old Mill Square was substantially complete, but we refunded our debt, so we still had the debt there. So it made the net position increase less than it has been, and you'll see it in the report. So going through that, yes.
Do you have are we having a work session anytime soon?
We need to.
go
In
over
fact,
those?
what I would like to do is let us schedule a regular work session. And so I'll come back to you with a proposal for that.
Okay.
Okay, at least once a month.
Okay.
Budgeting process, I sent out a notice. We're kicking that off. Charlene's on vacation, so I don't think that the little budget worksheets work packages that she gives out will go out until she gets back. But pretty much the same process. A couple of things that I've talked to Jeff about. I've talked to the county manager who has also been talking to the Board of Education, and I've talked to the high school principal, and that's, I would like for us to at least take a look at making sure that we can provide a resource officer in all of our schools. And I think working together with the county and the Board of Education, I'm cautiously optimistic that we might be able to work that into our budget. So, and one thing that, again, I'm asking people to consider is because of just the dramatic increase of inflation in the past year, is we're going to work and see how the numbers work out and possibly consider a one-time cost of living adjustment based upon the inflation that we've had. And we've gone through many years of an extremely low inflation. So we'll take a look at that and see what we can do as far as that's concerned. Drainage study update. You brought that up. We have a teleconference with the engineers tomorrow morning, so we'll get the update on where we are there on the drainage study. And then the last thing I wanted to do is I didn't say anything earlier because I would have stolen my own thunder, but I wanted to give a high five to Allie for all the hard work that she did in leading the planning of Liberty Day, but also a high five to the entire city staff.
Yes.
You know, the Public Works Department, Dale's department, the police just did an enormous amount of work to set things up and make it go off without a hitch. All the city employees. And all in all, I think it went extremely well. I probably have a biased point of view. But just as to reiterate what Allie said, you know, usually you're going to hear from the people who don't like what went on, and I didn't hear anything negative, not a thing, which is, now that doesn't mean everything went perfectly. There's always room for improvement, and so that's why we're going to have the meeting on the 12th, but I thought everybody did a super job, and I really wanted to give everybody a high five and tell them thank you for everything. And so when you see anybody, whether they're police department, Public Works Department, Environmental Department, or just a city employee, tell them thanks for all they did. Because at the end of the day, we do that for the people of this city. We do it for us, right? And it's great that we attract other people and they come in and they tell us great things about our city. So I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of all those people too. Announcements.
I think I mentioned most of everything. I'm trying to look. I think we talked about everything. The Community Pep Rally and the Discover Shelby Fest is upcoming, but they'll do movies in the park every Friday night in July, and the farmers market on Saturdays as well.
The farmers market has been great.
It has been great.
I have gone every Saturday that I was here. Yeah, I got
Okay.
pizzas.
Anything else? Any other questions? By the way, I left the senior center off because your team was a big part of that, so make sure you pass that on to them as well. Our thanks and our appreciation. There's no public here tonight. Got a little bit of thunder, scared everybody off. So,
I just want to say, I don't know how that lady right there does it, because
Yeah.
she has no sleep at all. I mean,
It's
No,
really,
no.
I mean, but it is such a big group effort. And for a municipality of our size to pull off that
it is.
big of an event is amazing. And it only happens because every single person who works here.
And we set the bar higher every year.
And we do.
And since we're being
safety everywhere, fire department everywhere,
since we're
Alan's guys everywhere.
since we're live, for the people that have never volunteered to work, it is more rewarding doing that than it is. I mean, you still get to enjoy all of Liberty Day, but it's so rewarding because you see how much everybody else is enjoying it as much as you do.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah, and
I
also
won't miss another one.
working around the weather on Saturday
That's
night,
always
that
hard.
was pretty good too. So thought that went really well.
I mean, I talked to is it Jerry or Gary?
Gary.
All right, so I talked to him that morning. So it looks like he had a lot. Was there a lot showed up over there?
Yes, I didn't get a number from him because I was back and forth,
Yeah.
but yeah, he had a good show. And it was his first actual car show that he did on his own, I think. Well, he had his club, but
Yeah.
he actually prepared all that, and so he was real pleased, and everybody else was too. He did a really good job.
It's all, for them, it's networking. So,
Yeah.
and so apparently he
And-
had the network and
And
it
he's
worked out.
he's a good guy, yeah.
So, really cool. All right, so if there's no other business or no other comments,